Take a breath, sit down. Let's eat together. Being alone isn't something we're taught. We're taught to share, to chase, to belong, but rarely to stay. To stay with ourselves without distraction, without apology, without fear. And yet life eventually puts you there, not as punishment, but as invitation. A room without noise, a night without voices, a table with one plate, one glass, one breath. At first, it's terrifying. It feels like standing in front of an ocean you didn't know was there. You want to fill it with anything: music, messages, movement, anything that keeps you from hearing yourself. But slowly, you begin to realize the emptiness isn't a threat. It's an opening, a quiet conversation between your soul and your patience. When you stay alone long enough, you start to see that silence doesn't make noise, it makes space. Space where thoughts unfold, where truth breathes, where time stops running and starts existing. Maybe loneliness isn't punishment. Maybe it's the purest kind of presence. A pause that says, look, even without anyone else, you're still here. Do you know how often we confuse presence with company? We think being next to someone means we're not alone, but loneliness can live even in a crowded room. And sometimes being by yourself feels gentler than being with people who never see you. You don't have to fill every silence. You can let it breathe, let it echo until it sounds like you. Sometimes solitude is a bridge, a suspended moment between who you were and who you're becoming. It's not isolation, it's reconstruction. Being alone teaches you to meet yourself without disguise, to see the parts you avoided, the ones you hid under noise, smiles, and endless plans. That's where healing begins, in the moment you stop editing your truth. Sometimes, in the quiet, forgotten voices rise again, fears, memories, desires you buried to survive. At first, it feels heavy, but then you understand that voice isn't the enemy. It's the child version of you asking to finally be heard. There are days you miss yourself, the version that laughed easily, that moved lightly. But even that before carried its own ache. Now you have space, space to listen, to breathe, to make peace with the pauses between heartbeats. And in that space, truth begins, a truth that doesn't shout, but waits patiently until you're quiet enough to hear it. Maybe you don't need someone to complete you. Maybe you just need to remember. You were never missing. You were whole before the noise began. Solitude isn't absence, it's presence, distilled, sacred, simple. It's you meeting yourself at last, without having to perform being fine. The more you learn to be alone, the less you accept company that drains you. The more you listen to your own rhythm, the less you chase noise disguised as love. One day you'll wake up and the house will be quiet, and instead of emptiness, you'll feel fullness, because finally the silence belongs to you. That's when you'll understand. Solitude was never a cage. It was a doorway, and on the other side was home. Home isn't an address, it's a heartbeat. It's the moment you stop searching outside for what has been quietly waiting within. Have another bite. Look around. Notice how the world moves slower when you don't chase it. Notice how the air feels softer when you let it be. There's a kind of silence that doesn't hurt, a silence that heals. It's the one that wraps around you now, not to close you off, but to keep you safe while you rebuild. You don't have to fear being alone, because you're not. You have you, the version that's learning, forgiving, growing, the one who stayed when everyone else left. And I'll stay too, not to fill the silence, but to sit beside it with you until your own quiet feels like company. When life becomes loud again, and it will, you'll hear differently. You'll know how to choose which sounds deserve your heart. You'll thank this silence for teaching you how to listen, for teaching you how to stay. Finish eating. Don't rush the end. Let the last bite melt slowly. Let the quiet linger longer than the thought of leaving. Because being alone was never about absence. It was about returning, returning to yourself, to the stillness that carries your name, to the heartbeat that was home all along.